𝕋𝕆𝕬𝕋𝕸𝕋 and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to continue with read my actual physical shelf project. We still don't have a cute name for this videos, but I have to pick books from my actual physical shelf and read them because at this point I own so many that aren't read, and I also own full series, the first books of which I've read and never continued on, which is not the type of a book collection that I want to cultivate. I would like to have some books to look forward to, but at this point I have too many that aren't read, so we have to address that. The previous video was my first one in the series. If you're interested, I'm going to link it, but if you're not interested in another long vlog, I'm just gonna summarize it for you. I've set myself a bunch of rules. The first rule is I have to pick up 4 books from my shelves to read in a certain month, and I have to vlog about them. I am allowed to DNF books, but I'm not a big DNFer when it comes to physical books. I am really a big DNFer when it comes to ebooks and audiobooks, especially audiobooks, but that's because I read a lot from digital libraries such as Scribd or Kindle Unlimited, so I don't lose anything. But when it comes to physical books, it's more of a challenge. The second rule is if I'm not going to finish one or a few books from my TBR for the month, I'm going to transfer these books to the next month. And the catch here is I can do that only one time, so I would be motivated to actually pick up those books and read them. If I'm moving a certain book to the next month, I'm only adding 3 new books to the TBR. March was a test month for this series, and I actually ended up not reading one of the books from the TBR, which was not at all surprising because I definitely picked bigger books that I can bite and chew. All 4 of them were huge. So I was left with The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. It is a very hefty book. It's historical fiction. It's about a haunted house. I love Sarah Waters. It's the only book that I have not read by her, and I have to read it in April or otherwise I have to DNF it, and I really don't want to DNF it. Trust, I'm collecting Sarah Waters books and I need all of them. The next book that I picked up for April is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I read the 5th season in March and I loved it. I'm obsessed with that book. It's everything, the best fantasy book I've read. Well, one of the best fantasy books I've read. The world building impeccable, the characters amazing, the suspense just a top-notch book. I loved it, and while I'm still invested in the story and in the characters, I want to continue with the sequel. We were left with a lot of questions, and I would like to get my answers. The last 2 books that I've chosen for this video are part of the series. The first one is Soulless by Gail Carriger, and the second one is Changeless, also by Gail Carriger. First and second book in the series. I already read them, and you might even consider it cheating, but I do have to read this too because these are the only ones I've read and I own the whole series and I really want to continue, but I wouldn't be able to just dive into the third one without wondering who these characters are and why they are important. I do remember really liking the series, I do remember the premise, I remember some of the characters, but I definitely forgot a lot of details. This 2 books and series in general is a little bit more fun than the books that I've chosen also, which is deliberate. I figured out by participating in this video the first time that I need some fun light books as well, because going from one heavy book to another was kinda hard. This is a historical romp with heavy romantic subplot and supernatural elements. I'm not a big fan of steampunk, but the characters definitely are doing it for me. They're very funny, very witty, I love the protagonist. So these are 2 books that I'm going to reread technically, but I do need to read them to continue with the series, so I think that is a reason enough. So these are 4 books that I'm gonna read in April for this challenge, and hopefully this time I won't have any leftovers.
Get used to disappointment.
Okay. I'm back with an update, but it's not especially positive because it's after April 20 and I have not finished any of the books. Let's just break it down. Let's talk about that. I think the book that is at fault is clearly Sarah Waters' The Little Stranger, which is not a bad book. It's just chunky. And also, it is very dense, as usual. Sarah Waters doesn't play around. She uses language like I don't know, I wanted to say something smart, but clearly my brain is not working as well as it should. She's just a really, really thorough writer. And while I appreciate it in the end, when I finish the story, I do not especially appreciate it now. I especially don't appreciate it with this book specifically because it is about a ghost, or rather about a poltergeist haunting of an old Georgian estate. And if you followed me for quite a bit, you know that I cannot handle horror at all. This is not gory or anything, it's rather sinister. And every single time I read a chunk of this book, I cannot sleep. Because the way she describes these hauntings, legit unsettling. For me, at least. This book reminds me a lot of The Haunting of the Hill House and the Bly Manor series. It's very much the same-ish premise. Basically, it's set in Warwickshire after the war, and it follows the family under the name Irises. The father of the family died and left the estate to his children, a girl and a boy, and their mother, because they didn't really know how to care for the estate and for the land and how to actually make money with it. The house slowly but surely started crumbling down, and they do not know what to do about it. But also it feels like this house in general wants them dead. This is a pretty fascinating story because Sarah Waters puts so much detail in it. I also think it would be a really cool pick for a book club. What Sarah Waters' genius is in general is that she knows what her characters are, who they are in real life. Even the secondary characters are people that you've met before or you are kind of familiar with. You can tell their background a little bit. The story starts with a fairly young doctor named Dr. Faraday who is called to Hunter's Hall, the house, and asked to see one of the servants because she fell ill. He's very familiar with the house because he lived in the same area and as a child visited it once. We're not going to get into details why, but he did visit it. And he expressed how different it looks. Now, Betty begs him to tell the family that she is too ill to work, so they would send her back to her family because she shares with him that she believes that this house is haunted and has a ghost. And he feels like it's just superstitions and that the girl has a very active imagination, but as he gets closer to the family, he realizes that something sinister is constantly happening in the house. And as far as I am into the book, it feels like this being actually exists and targets one person at a time in the house. I don't think it's a prank or it's something that someone does to make them leave the house, though it is a possibility. I think that's the mystery behind the story, if the being is actually real or not. But the book eerily reminds me of the TV shows that I mentioned before, because the house is its own creature. Also, I just gotta say that I love the way Sarah Waters writes characters because not only she knows who they are, but also she makes them flawed. If we're talking about heiresses, for example, they are of gentry, they owned a lot of land and were very rich, but after the war, many families that were rich lost a lot of money, and also people that live on their land, in some cases it's not their land anymore, hate them. And what they do in their dilapidated houses is complain about nouveau rich people that gained money from going into business. The families that did not inherit money. How vulgar they are and how they are ruining the houses that they bought from gentry that lost their money. And also they complain a lot about not being able to afford servants anymore and how they are not able to throw parties anymore, which is very superficial, but also the way Sarah Waters writes them just makes you sympathize with them. I'm currently on page 230, which is about the middle of the book, and a lot of stuff happened already. I have zero predictions. I know that there could be two outcomes. Either there's an actual ghost in the house, or someone is pranking them but I do kind of feel like it's an actual ghost because it would make sense with the way the story is written and with all the foreshadowing. But Sarah Waters fooled me before. She is a master of mysteries, surprisingly, even though her main genre is historical fiction. The second book that I'm reading right now, well, physically, because I'm reading a lot of ebooks, and we're not going to judge me for that. So the second book that I'm reading from my TBR list is Solace by 𝕋𝕻𝕋𝕻𝕋. This one is just as delightful as I remember. I've read it before, and I cannot wait to get into the romance. I love the setup of this. I think the voice of 𝕋𝕻𝕋𝕻 is very light, it's very quirky, it's very funny. I definitely am going to continue with the series and read the whole thing. But since it's almost the end of April, we need to talk strategy and what I'm going to do. I am sure that I'm going to leave at least one book unread this month. It's just gonna happen regardless because I definitely won't be able to finish the 𝕊𝕋𝕋𝕀𝕇. I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be able to even start the 𝕊𝕋𝕋𝕀𝕇 because The Little Stranger is going to take all this time. So the 𝕊𝕋𝕋𝕀𝕇 would probably be something I'm going to transfer to the next month, which is becoming a trend, but I kind of expected that because long, thick books take a lot out of me, especially books that are not in my comfort zone. So 𝕊𝕋𝕋𝕀𝕇 is probably going to move to the next month. My minimal goal is to finish The Little Stranger, to be honest, because I didn't want to DNF it. I kind of want to know what's gonna happen. And also, I really love this copy and I want to have it on my shelves. And as we know, I promised to DNF it if I'm not going to finish it in April. So this is my priority. The other books I can move to the next month, but that would be such a failure of a vlog. This is where I leave you. I'm gonna go continue watching Shadow and Bone, and then I will stop myself, hopefully, because it's very addicting, and I will read one of these two books, probably The Little Stranger. Hi everyone, I'm currently in my own apartment. As you can tell, the walls are different color. Here's my bed. Here's my window. We are not done yet, so it's a mess. I'm currently trying out my internet, so I'm working from here to see if the internet is worth it, like this provider. And I also took a book to read on my lunch break, which is Solace by 𝕋𝕻𝕋𝕻𝕋𝕻. Are you surprised that I'm not as excited about The Little Stranger? Because it does take a lot of time to read, but I kind of have to deal with the fact that some books are just that. They are a bit more time consuming, and I think with Booktube, you're kind of expected to read a lot of books in a month, so it bothers me. I want to read all the books that I bought recently, some new releases that I was really excited about, but I have to read these books because I promised myself that I'm going to do this challenge. So Solace, I am on page 100. This is so exciting. It's such a romp. Let's walk a little bit in the house because it's something that I've never done because I live with other people, but since it's my apartment, I can do that now. In the light of recent news and us getting so many book adaptations, I want to mention that this series would be such a good contender for a TV show because it's so campy and cute and funny, and in many ways it reminds me of What We Do in the Shadows, which is this campy TV show about vampires. And if you have not seen that, watch it because it's hilarious. It's so good. The thing that I also wanted to show you is my shelves. Let me just flip the camera. As you can tell, they're very tall and they will fit a lot of books. So do I really need to unhaul all these books? No. But do I want to carry books that I don't need into my new house? Well, apartment? No, not really. These were built by my mother's nephew and also by her. And I'm currently painting the little doors that are going to go right here. I want to cover this portion of the shelves, so it's going to be a bit more like a closet. I'm on first layer and I'm gonna work on that a little bit later. So the project is not about downsizing my collection for the sake of space. It's about quality versus quantity and actually using things that I buy. That is it for now. I'm cutting it very close because I only have 2 days left. Hey everyone, I'm back. This is the last update of the video. I failed my challenge this month. Well, last month, because it's currently April and I wasn't asked to actually film the last update for the vlog because I had acne all over my face. So we have to talk about how much I failed. Just to remind you of the gravity of the situation, I had to read The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters because I needed to read it in March and I only had one chance left. I transferred it to April and we know the rules. The rules are I have to DNF it. The question of the video really is, have I finished reading The Little Stranger on time? And the answer to that question, drumroll please, is I did finish reading The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters on time. I'm not sure I'm satisfied with it because the ending was not what I expected. I mean, did I have many expectations for the ending? I guess, in a way. It's an open ending and usually I like them, but in these types of novels, I kind of need a hint. I need something to tell me that my ideas and my theories on what happened in that house were correct, if you know what I mean, or they were incorrect. I would accept any answer. And in this case, the ending was very open. The protagonist was like,
I don't know what happened. It could have been that, it could have been this, and I'm lost as much as you are.
Which I hated. Specifically with this book. I was also not pleased with the fates of other characters in the book. It just felt very sad and low-key punitive, especially with some theories that I have for some of the characters. Like, for example, there is a female character that I think is queer. She might be, especially knowing that Sarah Waters writes queer fiction a lot. And the way the book ended for her is just not it, you guys.
This is not gonna fly around here. Not on my watch. Lesbian. Request denied.
I'm not especially pleased with the novel. It's definitely not one of my favorites from Sarah Waters, but now I can tell people that I've read all of the Sarah Waters works. I can even do a tier ranking video, though it would be very short because Sarah Waters has 5-6 books out and that's it. I wouldn't have read it regardless if it was not for her because this is not the type of book I pick up. I'm not into horror, even though I might have been a bit interested because it says that it's gothic fiction, which it is, but otherwise the poltergeisty, haunting shit is not my thing. While the characters weren't peeled in a very interesting way by the end of the novel, I still have to give it 4 stars because I enjoyed a lot of things about it, but that ending is not good in my opinion. I might be wrong. I know that some people really love this book. Some even say that it's their favorite Sarah Waters, which is baffling to me. Like, I don't get it because clearly I always say that Tipping the Velvet is my favorite, which is true, but I do believe that Fingersmith is technically the most elevated show. This book is just another Sarah Waters book that I've read and it's not my favorite, but now I can't say that I've read it, which is nice. The thing that was a surprise is that I actually managed to read another book. I did finish Soulless by Gail Carriger as well, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It's my second time reading this. I think the first time I gave it 4, but now I was vibing so hard with it. I think it's because I'm more into romance in general, and this was very swoon-worthy. I don't believe that I was into Alexia and Connell that much reading it the first time around, but their romance is so swoon-worthy. They have such a cute banter. It's very much, I outwardly dislike you, but I actually like you very much, which is always fun. The plot itself is very enjoyable, the writing style is very quirky. It's a fantasy, but it's still a funny book. It's just campy and enjoyable, and there's nothing in the world that I like more than camp. Give me an old school campy movie like 𝕊𝕆ℕ𝕀𝕇 Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, or Miss Congeniality, or Princess Diaries, or Coming to America. Honestly, it's very comfy. I rewatched it recently and it's so good. And I would be very happy. I rewatched this movie so many times, and I think that this book and series probably has the same quality. Sadly, I didn't have the time to read the other two books that I said that I'm going to read for this video. So this was 𝕊𝕋𝕋𝕸𝕃 by Gail Carriger, which I also read at some point, and of course 𝕊𝕆ℕ𝕀𝕆ℕ𝕋 by N.K. Jemisin. And it means that I have to transfer it to the next month, and it's an issue because it's becoming very important that I'm feeling with each vlog a little bit more. Last time I only had one book left over from the previous month, and this time it's two books which I have to read, otherwise I will have to DNF them, and I really don't want to DNF those. First of all, these are part of the series and I want to keep the series intact. This one was secondhand, so I might find it later. And the 𝕊𝕋𝕀𝕆ℕ𝕋 I bought full price in Europe somewhere, which means that the book was even more expensive than like you would buy from Book Depository. So I really don't want to give away these two books, but it just means that I need to work harder on my reading. This is it for this video. Tell me in the comments down below if you read any of these books, if you are enjoying these vlogs, if you have any tips and tricks for handling your physical TBR, because I know that a lot of you also have huge physical TBRs that you didn't have time or desire to tackle. In the comments down below, leave an emoji of a stack of books if you reached this part of the video, and I guess I'll see you soon with another one, but until then,